system operates around locations. The locations are here to my left, as you can see. There's some action items that we will be going over. The action items list is right here. These are the action items that I've created around the locations that have been set in the system. And these are the contacts that I just have added to the system to collaborate with in order to manage these properties and locations. To the right, there is your map view, which is what the system defaults to. We'll go over the actual dashboard and grid views as we move along the actual demo. But perhaps the best way to exemplify what the system can do is to actually go through a real-life example of the capability of the system. So as I mentioned, there's my locations that I need to dispatch some sort of work on. But if there's my location has not been created or it's not going to be available in your menu, which means that you have to create a new location. This green button right here to the right of the viewer will tell you the functions that you can do within the system, and you'll see that there's a new location option right there. You can certainly click on that so that we can create a new location. This is Google Maps enable functionality here. So let me exit out of that to show you that a little bit as well. It has that functionality that they have, which is the drag and zoom in and zoom out functions. You can toggle between the satellite and aerial views of the map. So, but to recap, to go back to our example, we're going to go ahead and create a new location. And it does have the Google capability for searches of addresses. So you can either do that here to search it, or you can go straight to the details tab to just enter the location as you have it in your records. Let's go ahead and click the search function here so you can see some of that capability. And Gladstone. And it turns out that that's the location that I wanted. And again, you can visually confirm that that's the location that you need by kind of just zooming in and out of the map. If you have confirmed that that's the actual address that you want to include, you can go ahead and click add. But it's basically the same functionality that it does to just move you over to the details screen. So if it's not the location that you were needed, you can cancel the search and start anew. Just going to move on to the details house. So I'm going to call this my San Dimas property, which is part of an HOA property. This is just for my particular example. I enter the address again. Yeah. I can type in today. My zip code, United States, 91673. And again, if I had chosen to add the actual locations upon the result of my search, these fields will be pre-populated as well. So this particular function works with groups. You will see that I had previously referred to these groups that I was able to expand from the John's View tab right here. These are predetermined, and you can associate a particular location that you're creating from the creation stage to a pre-existing group. For the sake of the example, and until we get to the groups, we're going to go ahead and click on all, which means it's not categorized as a particular group of locations. You can add a picture to your location right here in this particular field. And then we can click save. You'll have some confirmation from the system that this has indeed been added. Get out of that. And if I go ahead and refresh my view here in my system, the location information should appear. And there it is. Here's my San Dimas HOA property. If I wanted to look at the detail of that for some sort of editing purposes, or some sort of, you wanted to renew the picture of the particular property, you can do that. Then there is the map view as we had established prior. And if there were any action items that were pertaining to that particular property, they would appear here on that tab. But since there are none, we can go ahead and create one. To do that, we can go back to our action button right here to the which is iconified by the addition symbol, and we can then create a new action item. Once we select the action item option, the action item window will go, And by the way, if at any point I know that the webinar format works on a mute type of basis for the participants, but if there's any questions or answers, please feel free to use the Q&A section at the bottom bar of your Zoom module. And we'll be kind of keeping tabs on those so that we can address them towards the last 15 minutes or so of the webinar. But let's go ahead and recap here, resume here with the demo. As I mentioned, when I clicked on the create action item, this is the window that will appear on screen, and it walks me through the entire process of creating one. Once you become proficient with the system, you can really knock this out within about a minute and a half or so. It starts with naming the actual action item. So we are going to, for the sake of the example, we're going to have a type of a plumbing situation. It'll ask me to go ahead for the next steps. The next steps really is just what type of, very self-explanatory, what type of next steps you're telling the assignee of this work order to do. Most of the time in what we observe with the clients is just they go ahead and approve the start, which is basically telling them, hey, go ahead and fix this. But if there's any particular steps that you have already pre-built in your workflow, whether it's something where you want to request some sort of price or estimate on the particular repair, or if there's some information you wanted to request, you could certainly select that here. Most of the time, it's just your approve start command here. It'll ask us for a location to send this work to. So once we click on the field, it'll tell me the San Dimas HOA property location, which we just created. Now, you will notice the plus sign here. If I were to press it, it basically gives you a shortcut to create a location from this action item window. So if we were to click that, you'll see that the new location window appears, which is what we just performed a couple of minutes ago. So I'm going to go ahead and say leave. So we select the location this is going to go to. There's a priority field that you can select as well. We're just going to leave it as normal for now. This pre-populates to the actual to the user that is being logged into the account. So in my world, I'm John, which is why I have John's view right here. And I'm the facilities manager at Sunshine Properties. Here's where we get to assign this work to someone, whether it's a contractor or someone within the organization that does any sort of reassignment to. So for example, if I'm the facilities manager and I work with some folks within the HOA organization or within my firm of property management, and I have a particular person that does say plumbing situation, plumbing issues and results, and I can certainly designate that. If I have, for example, in my view here, I have a person by the name of Jack Wavy, who is presumably a pool technician, pool and spa operating technician. That'll do it. Here's Phil Piper, who is a plumbing service manager. But for the sake of the example, I'm just going to go ahead and send it directly to my plumbing contractor by the name of David Jones. The system does require us to put in a due date there for the work to be completed by. And here's an optional field where you can put in some instructions to the actual contractor. If there's any particular codes or any particular commands that you have built in within your workflow, again, this will be the good place to put those in. There's some other optional fields that you can put on there. If there's a limit on the price that they're authorized to do work in, you can certainly do that. This is just basically more tools for you to accommodate your workflow to. So if there is something, for example, if there's categories that you need to keep track of within your workflow, you can certainly do that here. If it's an electrical issue, if it's a fire protection issue, you can also go by subcategories. If you have to select that category first, of course. And there's the subcategories that kind of tell you at a more granular level what the work is being done for. But this wasn't electrical, so I'm just going to get rid of that. These are just some of the fields that are optional. So it looks like we have now completed the detailed section of the action item. The map section just kind of offers some confirmation. You can certainly drop further pins on this. Is this a particular property here? Or you can tell them, no, the actual leak is more towards the front of the street. And again, you can zoom in a little more on this. And you can add an action pin and says, property entrance here, just so that the actual contractor gets a little more information on it. Then there's the file section where you can attach pictures or some sort of reporting method. Here in my particular example, I have the actual ceiling leak situation going on here. Here's the comment section where, again, you can enter some further instructions or just log some sort of comments that you might want to do within the action item. Again, if there's many parties looking at an action item, whether it's the head of an organization or the contractor that's actually doing the work, performing the work out in the field, it might be convenient to just keep a track, keep a log of all the things that are going on surrounding the action item. So we can post that. And I want to move on to the last one here, the contributors. And really what the contributors are, just folks that are part of your contacts within the system. And again, contacts can be users of the system, people that are internal to your organization, or just outside contacts, which are your contractors or any sort of folks that you're working with outside of your administrative organization. So contributors, basically what it is, it's just you're adding them to be a CC on the goings on of the particular work item. So again, going back to our example, we send this out directly to the contractor, David, but I wanted Phil Piper, who is my plumbing service manager, to kind of just keep tabs on it. I can certainly add him as a contributor here. And what happens is that Phil will now will just be CC'd on any activity of the action item within the system. So if there is a change of status on it, he will get to know about it, as well as the coordinator of the action item, of course. So it looks like we went through the detail, we went through the map, went through the files, comments, and the contributors. And once I'm ready to launch this, I can go ahead and click Save here. And I should receive a confirmation message right there at the top. And it looks like computer's a little slow today. There you go. So my action item has been saved. So if I go to my action items view, just to confirm that indeed has been saved, I can go ahead and do that. And there it is, fix leak in the ceiling. If I open up the detail for that, we'll see exactly what we just inputted in the system and where it went to and everything else, plus a couple of other things. You'll see here to the left where before we expanded the detail, it'll tell you what the stage is. So this is the pending stage, which corresponds to this current status of the particular action item. You'll see that there was a draft stage, a notification stage, and a pending stage. What that means is that you have launched the action item. And at some point, the recipient of that action item is going to have to do something else to move this along, right? So we want this to be in the progress and eventually complete. So I just wanted to point that out before we switch gears and kind of just look at what David is encountering on his side of the operation. I want to go leave there, not save any changes. But now, if you bear with me, I can just tell you a little bit about what David's world looks like. Again, this is the plumbing guy that's going to go out there and fix our leaks. So I'm going to go ahead and drag his screen over here so that you can see a little bit of what his world is about. You'll see here that the picture is a little bit different. Again, the view is a little bit different here. This is, again, someone that is receiving work. And there is that action item that we just created and that we just sent to David. So when David is working on this, and again, this exactly the same capability that you're seeing here on screen is the same as it is displayed on the mobile application. The only difference is that instead of just having a very large screen, you'll have panels. So this will be one panel, this 1/3 of the screen. The other panel will be your right, and then the third of the panel will be the grid view and the dashboard view that will delve into it in a little bit. But again, whether David is out in the field or whether David is out sitting on his desk, he will receive notification of this particular action item that just came in. He will then follow it. He will then open it up to see what the information is. And again, this is kind of the same view that we just showed you from John's view, but he will receive that the information that we put in. You will see here that the status is also pending. So what David will do is kind of just go through these tabs and make sure that everything, all the comments are there and all the information that we needed. The comments that we posted here are going to be appearing in the comment section. is the activity log that tells you who created it, when, and where, and this keeps going and building onto it until the action item is completed. The contributors again on his view. Obviously, the coordinator is a contributor. David Jones, who's myself right here, David, is a contributor, and then our plumbing service manager, Phil, is there. You'll see that there's a related tab to this. Let's go back to it in a little bit because it'll make sense as we go through the flow of the action item. So when David receives this action item, he has the option to do the next steps, right? And by selecting these next steps, you will have an effect on this current status, right? So he can start the work. He can tell John, hey, okay, I'm going to start the work. He can say, hey, let me submit a price because this is outside of my scope or whatever the case might be. He can request further information or he can decline the item. But for the sake of the example, we're just going to go ahead and start the work. And then what David will do is then save those particular changes. And he will now exit out of that. And now let's go back to John's world here. I'm going to move that along here to the left. And now we're back in John's view. Let me go ahead and refresh his view. You will see that the action item has changed. Now the stage is in progress. And what that means is that we notified the contractor has accepted the work or the vendor. And now if we expand the actual detail of the action item, you'll see that the status bar, if you will, has actually changed to in progress. And we'll be able to see, we'll be able to connect in a few minutes once we move on to the actual dashboard and grid views, how that ties into the whole workflow. So John now knows that it's in progress. He's been notified of that. Eventually, he can do next steps at some point. If there is a status request that you want to send to David, you can select this. At some point, once you receive notification it's been completed, it is up to you as the coordinator of the action item to review for completion, and then you can mark it as completed. And some of the other options, I'm sorry, was to cancel the action item if that's something that is no longer needed. But in our particular example, you can always, for example, alter this so that you can add to the action. To the actual action item further files. So if there is any sort of pre-authorization form that you have worked it out with David that he needs to complete, you can certainly attach it to that action item so that he can have access to it. After the work is done, you'll obviously receive notification from David that it has been completed. I'm going to toggle back to David's screen here. I'm going to minimize it this time, so he can tell you that it has been completed. I'm going to go ahead and save. And I'm going to get out of this guide right here. And I'm going to refresh my view. So you'll see that the stage has now changed to pending complete. You'll see that now this progress bar has now been grayed out because the work has been reported as complete. And then the options that you have as the coordinator is to confirm that it is complete, to say incomplete, or to request further information. Some of the contractors will send you some that we've seen in the activity of the system. We'll send completed pictures right here so that you can keep on file, or we'll return this particular form completed so that you can finish the process on your side. So it looks like in our example, the work has been fixed. And now I wanted to kind of just tell you about related action items, which is what that little tab that we mentioned earlier briefly. Let's say that in our example, obviously David was a person that he was just a plumber, right? So in the repairing of leaks, there's usually a hole that is made. There's usually some access that needs to be made for the actual leak to be repaired before you replace pipes or you fuse them or whatever the case might be. So it looks like at some point this work might be incomplete unless it has been completely finalized to the point that it was before the leak happened. So you'll see that there might be David may have told you, hey, I linked it, but obviously there's this drywall hole that I need to get fixed. That's when the related action items kind of comes in. And what it really is just allows you to create an action item from an original action item. And it basically operates the same way that we just described. What this allows you to do is establish a relatedness between this new action item and the one preceding it, so that then you can go back and see what resulted from which particular action item. So we'll now can say, hey, fix hole drywall, and that's probably going to be to another contractor that you have. You can then select the location as well. And you can, go back to your drywall guy, say that it's Carl Langston, so to speak, or someone like, I believe there was a operations supervisor right there. So you can tell them, and again, you have to put in a close date. You can attach files to the new action item as well. This is a checklist that a lot of folks actually use in doing this type of work. And then you can click save. What that does is it allows you to kind of go back to the original action item, and there's the subsequent action item right here. It appears on your top of the list, and if you were to kind of open it up, it has the same functionality as the action items that we have gone through. So the related action items gives you the shortcut and the ability to create a quote unquote a child action item from a particular work that you already commenced. And as I said in the example, is when you have this little repairs that encompass more than one contractor or more than one type of work, you can always create those action items from an original action item. And I wanted to show you how they're linked here. They will appear here in your related tab as we move along the actual file here. Hold on a second. So there it is. That was your related action item. Let me exit out of that particular view and show you a little more about something else that we mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, and is this particular item called action item schedules. So this really comes into play whenever we are doing, in my world here in Sunshine Property Management, whenever we want to do some sort of preventive maintenance on our facilities. So what this functionality allows you to do is to create scheduled action items. And if you saw my demo there, I just go to the action button and I select scheduled. And this is a two-part type of process here. What you're doing is you're creating a schedule upon which action items will be deployed. So if you have a yearly inspection for some sort of compliance item, any sort of building code regulation, or if you need a fire safety inspection every 6 months or so, this is the place where you would schedule that. And in my world, we can certainly perform monthly inspections surrounding our properties. And you would then, again, first you would create the actual schedule, and then at the bottom half, you'll see that we have an opportunity to add action items to that schedule. The days to completion is the date that you are just pretty much how the due date was on the examples that we talked about. You select the days that the recipient of that action item has to complete the actual task. You're going to select a date which defaults to today's date, where you're going to start implementing that schedule. Usually, most of the time is as soon as possible, but you can tell the system when to begin implementing a schedule, down to the time as well. And here's where you would set the frequency of that schedule. And if we have some pre-populated or pre-configured frequencies there, you can do it daily, of course, do it weekly, monthly. It seems to be the most readily used, and this is, of course, a monthly inspection. So I'm going to go ahead and say monthly, and you can set that to a particular set date of the month. You can say the first of the month, or you can say the 5th day of the month, whatever the month is, or you can go by instance, where you actually tell them the first, second, third, or fourth particular day of the week of the intervals of every month or every 3 months or so. For my example, I'm going to say every month. This is a monthly inspection. I want to start those on the first Tuesday of every month. And it looks like that's what our schedule has been set to be. And then you can also set an end date to that. No end date, or end after so many occurrences, or end on a particular date. And by ending means the actual schedule, not the action item that you've created, but you're telling the system when to stop automatically launching these action items. You can then drill down to, now that you've created the schedule, now you're telling the system what to do every time that the schedule comes due. And then you can, since this is a monthly inspection, this can be a part of the monthly inspection can be a fire walkthrough, just to check for fire extinguishers and things like that. And again, the actual action item will work the same as we have explained before. You can select a location, defaults to me as the coordinator, and you can select a particular contact to send that to, whether it's someone in your organization who can then reassign these action items to someone else, or directly to a vendor to do the organizations. To do the inspections, I'm sorry. You can go ahead and attach a maintenance list or whatever fire safety document is. And again, as I'm creating this, I'm creating the template of a task that goes out in the frequency that we just previously scheduled. So that's what we're creating. It looks like the action item has been saved. So if we move over to the actual schedule tab here to the right, you'll see that this is what is going to be launched according to this schedule that we created earlier. But since this is a monthly inspection, one would imagine that an inspection has more than just the fire walkthrough. You can just check HVAC as well. And again, pretty much the same philosophy applies here, where you can just select all the parties that need to be privy to the particular item, and you can go ahead and save. So what you have told the system to do is that there is, let me exit out of here. You have now created 2 types of action items that are going to be deployed as part of a monthly inspection, which follows the schedule that you created, which is on the first Tuesday of every month at midnight. These 2 tasks will be deployed. They will be deployed in the same way that we just kind of showed earlier. You go return and save. Don't want to lose our work. Oh, there's an end date. I'm just going to say no end. So now our schedule has been saved, and you can see them here as part of your schedules. We have a couple monthly inspections that are going on at the same time. And then if I click on the detail of them, you can obviously edit the fields that you have created for either the schedule or the action item. You can go into the action item and make any changes that you need. And this particular tab, these are the ones that are scheduled, what happens every time the schedule comes due. And this is launched action item. So as the system launches this, so the first Tuesday of next month, these 2 tasks will appear here. Kind of just a time check here. We're about the 10:40 mark. If you give me about 5 more minutes, we'll open it up for any questions. But I just wanted to wrap it up by kind of showing you the other views that the system has. Let me default this back to our location so that you can see the actual pins here. So again, the system defaults to your map view. There's the dashboard view as well as the grid view. If we go ahead and delve into the dashboard, the items to the left will remain in place. To the right, you'll see an activity stream. This pretty much works as your notifications in your social media accounts, or like LinkedIn or some sort of Facebook. As things happen, they'll occur here. As you'll see, we were creating the fix the leak ceiling type of action item here. We created the fix hole drywall action item, and so on and so forth. So you can scroll back and forth using that particular tool right here to the right. At top, you'll see at the middle, you'll see some of the statistical information that it's contingent upon the things that I'm browsing over here, right? So this provides you a little bit of the performance management functions of a particular organization. This will allow you to tell you which tasks are pending, and if I were to, or which ones are in progress, for example. If I select the in progress tab, the items to the left will filter to the in progress status. And depending on what view you have here on this view, you will see that there's locations that are, it'll give you the breakdown on locations. If you want to select action items, it'll give you the breakdown by action items that are in progress, right? One of the neat things about that, let me clear the filters here. One of the good things about the actual dashboard view is that it allows you to kind of just view, clear that as well. It allows you to view the things that are kind of just your top priority right at the top, things that are waiting on you, whether something is pending complete, what has been completed, and what has been canceled. And before I forget, this is where you would actually measure things that have been, how old things have become, really. The green will show you what the status changes have been, what the actual activity has been on the actual item, on the actual work item, versus the last activity that something was performed on it, or excuse me, when the actual action item was created. But if I wanted to click on some of these quick shortcuts, you'll see that I can go select waiting on you, and they know that these are the things that are waiting on me. There's 2 locations that are waiting on me. You will see a little number here to the right of the actual entry, and that refers to the action items that are associated with that location. So again, I'm in the locations view. These are 2 locations that are pending on me, 2. And if I expand the location, I can always look at the action items that are concerned with that location, and you can see here what those are. And from there, you can actually view them and further manage them. So that's what the dashboard view, again, is just another tool for you to organize your work. It allows you to prioritize on a day-to-day plan your day out depending on your operations. Lastly, there's the grid view. This is more of a lot of folks in the industry love this view. It actually reflects a spreadsheet, really, which you can sort by the fields on top and by property name. It kind of just keeps a tab of what's going on all of your account. Lastly, this is your notifications window. It kind of just pops up every time that something new comes in. Now, obviously, I've been logged in the entire time here, so it's not activated when I'm logged in. But lastly, there's the admin console that I wanted to touch on. And this is basically just where your housekeeping functions are. When you select that particular option from your profile picture here, I just want to do that again, select admin. And this is where you actually get to do a little bit of your housekeeping on your account. So you can edit your account details. There's a branding that you can do where you can upload your logo or select what type of color scheme you want on your account. The users are folks that you get to that have an account within the platform. So these are more the folks that I referred to earlier as guys within your organization, assistant property managers, and things like that are internal to you, versus your contacts who can be your users in the view of the view that we just went through, or also your contractors, people that are external to your organization. In an abstract sense, it's just anybody that you're going to use the system with would be considered, excuse me, an actual contact. A word about groups. This is where you can group properties according to whatever criteria you want. So if you have apartment complexes, multifamily homes, or commercial properties, retail companies, or some sort of any other category that you want to group them in, you can certainly create new groups and add locations to that group, so that when you want to work on a particular type of view, you can certainly filter the system by that. So, and everything in the system will reflect the grouping view that you have there. So if you wanted to concentrate today on apartment complexes and see what's going on with your apartment complexes, you can do that. If I switch back to my map view, you'll see all the locations that are apartment complexes. You will see then also all action items that are concerned with apartment complexes. So once again, it's just another way for you to actually group properties together. It doesn't have to be by geographical location, but as I mentioned earlier, by any sort of special feature that you have. whether commercial, residential, or otherwise. This is where you will kind of just manage your locations here that we just added, and you can activate them or deactivate them, which kind of just makes them go away from your main view. And the San Dimas HOA properties right here, the one that we just created for the webinar. Let's see. So that about concludes the meat of the particular demo. I know that we apologize. We had some for the first 7 to 10 minutes or so. We had a little bit of technical difficulties with the audio, but I hope that we were able to kind of just cover all the main concerns or the main questions you may have about the system. Let me go ahead and kind of just get out of here and look at our Q&A section to see what we can answer. So just bear with me for just 1 second. Okay, so it looks like we have some great questions that came in using the Q&A tool here. Get a question here. Who uses common areas? That's a great question. We have quite a variety of clients that are using the system for an even variety of things. But right off the top, again, property managers, facility managers, owners of property, and property developers as well. Depending on what type of use they have for it, they can certainly sign up for common areas. We also have some REITs out there, some schools and universities that are using facility management using our software. We have some municipalities that have used the software to do some of their property management endeavors and code enforcement endeavors. There's a municipality that wants to interact with about 160,000 properties in the system, and they will use it. They are using it for the administration of code enforcement and property law that is entangled within the maintenance of those locations. So we have quite a huge variety of types of clients that have signed up for the system. Basically, anybody that has a need for collaboration surrounding locations. Let's see what else has come in here. Does the system offer any reporting? Yes, it does. It's actually a couple of ways that I can answer that question. So we show you the grid view. That's a lot of the reporting that we have been asked about has to do with the grid view, which is your overall type of data points that you collect and you present to internal partners of your organization. So that's one way that we're providing reports. In addition to that, we can certainly take the data points that you need to have reported on, and we can configure that as well in the system so that you can have access to it on demand. And let's see, I know that in about 2 months or so, we are going to be launching an entirely new capability to have the end user, be able to just create any reports that they want as long as the data points are being captured by the system. So imagine a world where, just as I walked through the example, you will want to have a report of the plumbing type of work that was deployed in the system between such and such date, and that cost between such and such amounts of money, and that were resolved within 3 to 5 days, so that you can run that report and then help you do some strategic planning regarding your operations. So reports, yes, we have them. We can certainly have a conversation about what type of reports or what type of samples you might be able to provide for us to duplicate those reports. Let's see. Okay. Question about labor tracking or hours. Does the system provide the ability to track hours performed on a particular job? Yes, we do have that. Pretty much the same answer as I just gave you regarding the reports. There will be a subsequent functionality in the system that allows you to do this 24/7, but we currently do have that capability as well. So we can certainly help you do some of the project management. A lot of this question questions come about in the context of project management and reassignment of project management. So yes, we do provide that as well. Let's see. Can I reassign a work order? Yes, indeed. Yes. A work order or an action item. There's a couple of ways that you can do that. I showed you one, which is the related functionality that you have. So if you wanted to, if you're thinking about the context of reassigning more work or subsequent work coming from our original location, you would certainly use your related action items, or you can choose to create a new one. But if you were able to see the actual options that I have, once you're in the action item and you select the assignee, you can change that at any point of the actual transition of the action item, granted the permission that you have as a user has been given to you to do so. So for example, if you're the owner of an entire, of about 100 buildings or so, you want to have about 10 folks under you to have that ability, you can certainly attribute that ability to them by using that admin function that we showed earlier. That's where you would manage your users. You manage users and you can check off boxes to see what they're able or unable to do. And the reassignment of work orders or action items is indeed one of those options. Question about integration. Can we integrate? Yes, it's a kind of a big question, but yes, we indeed can integrate. We have some APIs already in place out there. It is not an out of the box process that we have here. So for that, we will have to have some conversations about implementing some sort of integration, whether there's a web service or some sort of ready to plug in API. We can certainly integrate with any sort of accounting system that you may have, or any sort of other work management or project management system that we have, provided that the APIs are in place. So do we integrate? Yes, indeed. It's not an out of the box type of capability. It's something that someone in my department will be able to handle with you in client services. Let's see. Couple of questions here. Okay. What else can common plans do? Common areas do, and I said common plans. So I mentioned, I kind of just alluded to this a little bit earlier. There's going to be the capability to perform what we're going to be calling common kits. What that is basically a workflow agent that has been configured in the system for you to initiate any sort of workflow within your organization. So for example, a little bit of this was the scheduled and action items that we launched just now to do the monthly inspections. You can automate that even further now with what's coming out in a couple of months. And we can certainly keep you informed, and our website will certainly have the updates on that as well. But that's something that you can do. So imagine in your world, if you're some sort of rental property management type of residential rental property management, you want to incorporate a workflow where you can vet the applicants. That may include some sort of credit check built into the actual system. That's going to be forthcoming, and that if you wanted to integrate with some Experian or TransUnion type of API, that can certainly happen. That's coming down the line in the next couple of months or so. So it's basically just a workflow engine for common areas. There's also common plans. It allows you to convert any sort of architectural plans, and we'll just drop them in there for you. Let me see if I can actually just show you some of that real quick. 1 second. And I know I'll let you go in about 3 minutes, you guys. Let's see here. So we're in apartment complexes. Let me go ahead and say all. Stewart Hotel. Here's that one. So as I go into my map view of this particular property, you'll see that it looks a little bit different. If I zoom in, I'm able to kind of just place these layers where I can see floor plans and equipment mappings that I can then drop a pin on to kind of just designate work on. That's what Commons Plans is. But this webinar was kind of just about the basics. We do have other webinars coming up on separate ability to do this as well. So for now, it just wanted to kind of just touch base on that and show you that that's something that we can do. Common Plans allows you to just kind of turn any sort of architectural drawings that you may have, or any sort of, no matter how complex they are, we have an Illustrator team that actually puts them together for you. We have an implementation process that can put that into your properties. Well, I think that's that's about the end of it. I've gone through all the questions that came in through the Q&A queue. I again thank you so much for all of your participation today, and we will do this weekly and the weekly webinars here with Common Area. So if there's any follow-up questions, please contact us. Again, my contact information is on screen for you, and I will return 3 minutes of your time today. Thank you so much for all of your attendance, and we'll hopefully looking forward to partnering with you even further with Common Areas. Thank you.